video about dealing with social anxiety when it comes to school, classrooms, professors, teachers, that kind of stuff. Of course, there are some things that you gotta help yourself. So I had this idea because on Monday I was running 6 minutes late for class-ish. It just took longer to get in the parking garage than I thought it was going to, and having ADHD, I have a horrible concept of time. Like, it's very frustrating, but I try to like set times, whatever. And I was in my car and I hardcore debated not going. I froze. But what's the big deal, right? I mean, everyone's late to class. Yes, that is true. However, for me, it sort of like spirals. I start to think about how if, depending on where the door is in the classroom, if it's the door in the back of the room, I get really worried about people turning around and like looking at me. I get really concerned about the professor getting interrupted or sidetracked and then having to stumble. Honestly, I like am so afraid of being called out that like that in itself also, if the door's in the front of the room, oh no. That's a really hard one because then you're walking in and everyone's already staring at you. And I have this like rooted gut feeling that every time I see someone or like look in their eyes or in their face or whatever, which I try not to do in that case, but if someone's like, if I'm looking up at them, I'm thinking, or I think they're thinking, wow, this girl's so irresponsible. Wow, we're juniors, seniors in college and she can't get to class on time. Like, or people wondering like what's going on in her life that she can't get to class on time. And so that's where I think it's natural anxiety for a lot of people, but it's where the social anxiety part really takes over and takes all of those little bits and details to the extreme that then it sets in motion or like accelerates or is the catalyst to doing a action or decision that is not conducive or helpful or, for example, like goes with your life goals, meaning like I want to graduate from college, therefore it would not be within my best interest to not show up to class if I'm going to be 4 or 5 minutes late or even 10 minutes. So since not going to class because you're late is unrealistic and not something you want to do, here are a couple like tips that I'm gonna put my hair like that looks like I'm sorry. Here are a couple tips that I have built on over the last like 2 or 3 years, but especially within the last year. So this one seems kind of silly, but one of those tips, the first tip I have is when you go to walk in the classroom, even if it's in the back of the room or the front of the room, I already have like my phone or like a fidget, like a tangle in my hand. And then I literally just look at my shoes the whole time. I know that seems silly and it kind of seems like, well, is that like cheating? No, it's getting me to my seat and I'm getting to class. I just don't want to look at anyone and don't want to see them looking at me. And then I sit down like and just immediately take all my stuff out and just like get as engaged as I can and take a couple deep breaths and try not to be like, oh my God, but now everyone's looking at me because I don't know. I didn't see anyone look, so problem solved. This one's really hard, but honestly, like, it can be the most helpful. Ow, my feet are falling asleep. Ah! Ow. This one's really hard, and I definitely struggle with it, but it's honestly one of the ones that pays off the most. Let's say, like, in my case, I wasn't able to get the accessibility stuff done until recently. I find that going up to my professor after class, which is a whole nother story. Like with people of authority, I want to come off as like competent and interested and successful and smart. And being late reflects all these negative things when in actuality, like sometimes I'm doing everything I can to help it, but the time just goes as it goes. But going up to your professor afterwards and like what I usually say or try to say is like, I just wanted to apologize for interrupting your lecture. And I think that sounds better than I'm sorry I was late, just because it seems more courteous, I think. So like, I apologize for interrupting your lecture. I just wanted to let you know it was not my intention to be late. I have been struggling recently with time management, and I just wanted to let you know that I am sorry, or like I apologize. And sometimes professors will be like, oh great, oh my gosh, like depending on how close you are with them or how nice they are. This guy is like a very like professor-y professor. Is that a thing? Like he's very like to the point, a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but he's smart, I guess. So he just said okay, and that was it. There's a hair. So of course, naturally, I left the room thinking, oh my god, he hates me, and I'm gonna do a project, and I'm gonna fail. But one thing at a time, Taylor, one thing at a time. And then if none of these sound like something you wanna do, the last tip I'm gonna give, which honestly is like how I make the move, like from my car to go to class, is using the DBT or dialectical behavioral therapy skill of opposite action. So opposite action is a skill within, I want to say distress tolerance, but it might be emotional regulation. I don't know. It's one of the skills that gets like trickled through all of the other ones because it is so useful. So it's a DBT skill. And so what it means is what it's telling you to do, asking you to do, is you have an emotion urge, so emotional response. So for me, it's anxiety, which technically anxiety isn't an emotion. It's not one of the, I think 7. It's fear. So the emotion of fear, my action urge is to not go to class, to go back home, to run away basically. And so using opposite action, it tells you to act opposite of that emotional urge. So in this case, the opposite of my fear and anxiety of not going to class is I gotta go to class. And I know that seems really simple, but it's really hard, and it takes a lot of practice because I don't know. I've always been the type of person where I've been a little bit like reluctant to try skills because I'm like, those aren't gonna. That was so annoying. Sorry. Like those aren't gonna work. No, you're wrong. Shut up. Not actually shut up. I didn't say that. But I get really like questioning. Is that? See, I'm having anxiety right now, so I'm fidgeting. Doubtful. I get doubtful that they're gonna work, but I will say opposite action is one that I've had the most success with. And what's great is, sure, yes, it works for anxiety, for social anxiety, for situations. You don't want to go up and talk to your professor. Well, literally the answer is make yourself do it. And I know that sounds crazy and like, I don't know, it just sounds like unobtainable. You're just like, yeah, well, if I could do that, I would already do that. But unless you practice that, like making those actions for yourself, it won't change. And what's nice about opposite action, especially with fear, is that the more times you perform whatever the opposite of that fear urge is, meaning like especially when your emotional response doesn't necessarily accurately reflect or portray the event, meaning I have such an overwhelming amount of anxiety about going to class. Well, that's not like a correct or traditional or level-headed response. Versus, obviously, if there's danger and you're running from it, you want to be fearful. You don't want to do opposite action and be like, hey, I'm going to go walk towards that. No, don't do that. But it's really helpful. And what it does is it kind of makes that fear less and less. So now that I have been late to class a handful of times, each time, even though I still sit in my head and I walk super slow from my car, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to go. Maybe I can find this excuse or this excuse or this excuse. It makes it a little bit easier because I know I've done it before, therefore I know I can do it again. And I think that's also a way to really build confidence in yourself, that I think building confidence in yourself can combat a lot of different avenues or different responses that social anxiety can have. Because at least for me, at the root of mine, usually it's I'm afraid of saying something wrong. I am afraid of looking stupid. I am petrified of people not liking me. I'm so concerned with that if I say something, people are gonna just be like, nah, see you later. Just general disapproval, physical looks. I mean, there's some that I can't even explain, like in groups of people for class, that's a really hard one too, and I'm still working on that one. Like I sit in a group of people at school, and as soon as I interject or say something or participate, immediately I regret it. And I sit there and think, oh my God, what are they thinking I said? Oh my God, they think I'm stupid. Oh my God, I should have spoke up. Like that was so dumb. They think I'm insane. Like etc., etc. And that also is kind of one of those ones where you got to do the opposite action. If you ever want to be social or make new friends or have new experiences, unfortunately, it's not going to happen unless you open your mouth, unless you communicate, unless you try to communicate. And also, by no means am I like a therapist or saying, oh my gosh, these things will work exactly. But this is what I've found that helps me, and it alleviates a little bit of just general stress and anxiety that comes with school. Another thing too, like, I struggled with this, but you don't have to be friends with everyone in your class. Like, there's one of my classes I actually like literally know one person's name, I think, maybe. And it's not for lack of talking to people, I just didn't really click with them, and it's a situation that I feel a little bit more socially anxious in, or like more self-judgment, or like inside myself. What's the word I'm looking for? Self-reflective? Whatever. And there's other classes, like in my finance class, I have some friends in there that I sit with, and I'll blurt stuff out all the time, and we all laugh and we have fun. Or I say something dumb and I'm just like, that was stupid. But the only way I made that relationship was I turned to this guy on, I don't know, the week 2 of class, and I looked down at my paper and I was like, I don't know what's happening right now. And I said it like that because I really wasn't trying to be funny, but I didn't want to come off as like stupid. But I literally was sitting there looking at my piece of paper like, what? And so then he helped me, and then insert whatever. Now we sit next to each other in class and it's fun. And ultimately, using skills and trying really hard to combat social anxiety has fulfilled a lot of voids in my life. It really helps with loneliness. Like, I was still practicing doing this in the fall, and I really didn't have anyone in my classes. I was in classes with much younger people, and I was super upset that like I was walking around campus by myself every single day. Well, once I established connections and at least had someone to talk to in the classroom, at least I knew while I'm walking by myself, I'm about to walk into a situation where I can talk to someone. And if you can't, then find another option. So yeah, that's kind of my messy suggestion or tips on how to deal with social anxiety when it comes to classmates or professors, or in my case, being late to class. So if you guys have any questions, obviously most of you have my Instagram, or leave a comment down here and I will totally respond. Or even like, I would love to know if you try the opposite action thing, or you try like the fidget while walking into class. And also, it doesn't have to be just college. Like, this all applies for high school teachers as well. And a lot of times high school teachers are more approachable, just because I don't know why that is a thing, but I recall it being a thing. Let me know if you try it and if it works, or if you try it and it doesn't work, because it doesn't work for everyone, but it means you tried something new in order to obtain a different result. If you keep doing the same thing all the time, your results are never going to change. Your life is never going to change. So, on that heavy note, I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and catch you next time.